Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. I am actually in Houston, Texas right now, traveling, seeing family for the holidays, but obviously still following the weather for the holiday back home in the Carolinas and the Southeast as we get ready for a cold blast, which is going to affect everybody. I'm actually going to feel it first here in Texas by Thursday, Friday, and that's going to be traveling to the Carolinas into Saturday and Sunday. And the snow talk is still around, but as you guys know me, I'm going to be completely honest with you, tell you what's actually going to happen versus the hype, the hysteria with single model runs. I will tell you, everything you see out there, I would just discount the fact of totals and all that stuff you see right now. The pattern is still favorable, and that's the key part about next weekend. I'll move my head out of the way here. You know my weather forecasting rules for the winter here, 7 to 10 days out, which we're just on the edge of this now, kind of more in that 6 to 7 day range. The pattern is still favorable in the Southeast. It's not trending one way or the other right now. If anything, maybe I'd say it's kind of even. It's not looking like a better chance of snow or less chance of snow. It's still somewhat favorable. Again, we're not to the stage yet where we would actually even be talking about totals right now. So when I see people forecasting or putting out totals, it's nonsense. It really is. At this stage of the game, you just don't know. And if you follow every model, which remember, the models run every 6 hours, you'll go crazy going back and forth with windshield wiper. I focus on the overall pattern and where things are trending from a holistic standpoint as opposed to a single model every 6 hours. That being said, let's get into some of the nuts and bolts of what's happening right now. The biggest story, I think, overall this is the temperature forecast. And again, I'm going to go into the middle of the week. We've got all this cold air building over Western Canada. So this is the 22nd. The 22nd, let me see what day that's actually Thursday. I had to double check because I know Friday, Saturday. This is basically early Wednesday night into Thursday. We go through time and you'll see that Arctic air spilling into the country. Okay. Something that you see often with these Arctic fronts is the models will try to produce snow with the Arctic front, but you rarely get that because it's just not possible. Cold air chases moisture often for the Southeast. So to see moisture come in and then override the Arctic front, it happens maybe 1 out of 10 times, but it's pretty rare. So I go into Thursday and Friday, and I just want you to see, this is a monster Arctic front. I will be seeing it first here in Houston, Texas, before you guys see it in Charlotte. But you could see ahead of this system, there's actually going to be some warm air that gets pulled up ahead of it. So ironically, it probably is going to warm up before the big bottom drops out here. You see the cold air moving in, and this is our big storm system kind of tracking across the Ohio Valley. So it's not going to snow ahead of the system, obviously, because temperatures are warming up. This is likely going to be rain. What's more likely is if we go into Friday or Saturday and a secondary low forms on this storm system and we see moisture getting pulled back to the northwest. But right now, that seems kind of iffy. So I'm not really bullish on this front Thursday or Friday bringing us big time snow chances. Could there be some flurries at the tail end? It's a possibility, but look at the cold air. I just want to show you. To me, this is the most confident thing of the forecast going into Christmas weekend is how cold it's going to be. Look how chilly it is. Remember the temperature charts on the left here. These kind of aqua shades you see, that's below zero, and that could move into the North Carolina mountains for Christmas Eve. So, from a temperature standpoint in the Charlotte area, Raleigh, Greensboro, down to Columbia, you're talking highs in the low to mid 30s and morning lows in the teens. There's some of the coldest Christmas temperatures we've seen in quite some time. So it's cold. The confidence in the cold is there. The lack of confidence is in the moisture. And we can talk about that moisture setup right here. So let's look at the moisture part of this. I'm going to show you the GFS model just because it just gives me an overall view. I'm not buying into this exact setup. I'm using it as a template to kind of show you what's going on overall because I just don't look at one model. I look at everything. And so as we look at this going through the middle of the week, you can see the rain and maybe even thunderstorms ahead of the front. So Thursday, Friday is looking more like a rain event, no matter which model you look at. It's just a matter of how warm it is ahead of the system. And then on the back side, you can see the cold air moves in. So for everybody that was sharing the GFS model the last couple days, I find it ironic nobody shares it today because guess what? It's showing 0.0 inches of snow, but that doesn't mean the snow chances are gone. And I'm going to tell you why here in a minute. Deterministic runs just show you kind of one solution. What I look at quite often, as you've heard me talk about, are ensembles. And what the heck are ensembles? It's basically taking multiple variations of the model and running simultaneous simulations. In this case, the GFS model, which you're looking at right here, is going to show you, I'll make sure I have the GFS model selected. Okay, this is the European model. I had to double check because I had both of them pulled up. So this is the European model. This actually has 51 variations. So let me back this up. And what I'm showing you here are the 24-hour chances of 1 inch of snow. So the time is up here, middle of the week. You can see some snow in the mountains. We'll go into Friday. And again, you see where the chances of snow are Friday into Saturday. We'll go into Christmas Eve. And you can see the probabilities east of the mountains are varying between 4, 5, 6, 7, 8%. That is higher than normal, but that is still incredibly low chances. As I always like to say, the chances of no snow are 10 times higher right now than seeing snow. It's just that even a 5 or 8% chance, that's higher than the climatological average of 2% for snow on Christmas. So we'll go to Christmas Day, and it's a big goose egg. So the white Christmas thing, I think, is silly. People asking about a white Christmas. There's really not a single piece of evidence that shows any snow falling on Christmas Day. It's either going to happen maybe, and I don't think it's going to happen at all, Thursday, Friday, or even early the week after Christmas. So don't get your hopes up for a white Christmas, because this is actually the 26th, 27th. You see there's another chance there. So let's look at the GFS. The GFS is much more bullish. I just showed you the deterministic model, which didn't have any snow. This is why you don't discount it, because the ensembles still show a much higher chance Thursday, Friday than the other models, but it's only 10 to 15%. So that's a big trend down even in that model. If you don't like looking at ensembles that way, another great way to look at it is here. This is the 24-hour snowfall chances for Charlotte from the GFS. Even though the deterministic model has 0, there's still a hint of it in some of the ensembles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members of the model have some snow. Now the mean is 0 because it doesn't add up to much, but it's still there. If we look at the European, even though it's not as bullish as the GFS, its ensembles are actually a little bit more gung-ho, with maybe a 1/10 of an inch before Christmas, the 23rd, 24th, and then Monday, Tuesday after Christmas, maybe 3/10 of an inch. So that's why the pattern is still favorable. The fact that we still have this many members showing some snow means the pattern is there. And that's why don't get caught up in these deterministic runs. If you see a model that shows, Brad, we're going to get 12 inches of snow, and I say that's not likely going to happen, the reason I say that is because these models right here, I'll look at the ensemble members, and these ensemble members will not have anything remotely close to that. And also, conversely, if you see a model run that shows 0, and I go, that's not likely either, because there's still the hint of it there. So you just got to remember, this is what I look at. Is there a chance of snow again Thursday, Friday? Maybe. Monday, Tuesday after Christmas? Maybe. It's still there. This is the favorable pattern I'm talking about. The reason we're seeing so much craziness with the guidance, if you're wondering why it's kind of all over the place, it really comes down to charts that no one ever shares on social media. It's like 500 millibar heights and energy. If you look in the middle of next week, we're trying to time out a piece of energy coming out of the northern branch of the jet stream and the southern branch. This one's going to try to go up this way. This one's going to try to come down, and they're going to try to sync up. We call that phasing. That's one of the most difficult things to forecast in weather, is two moving objects meeting up, where that happens, how they meet up, and the speed of all of that. There's just a lot of moving parts. It's a giant math problem with multiple calculations. If you ever did that math problem as a kid, there's a train leaving Philadelphia and a train leaving, Miami, and they're going this speed. What time do they arrive? That's kind of what's happening here in the atmosphere. It's a complex calculation of how these things move. So to sum all this up, I'll just go back to this graphic again, and I'm going to stick with this. These are the rules I use. We're still in a favorable pattern right now for some wintry weather this upcoming weekend, Christmas weekend, into the days after. It's not 100%. It's not really high chances, to be honest with you. The chances I would put right now between 5 and 10%. That's, again, above our historical average of 2% around Christmas. So that's something to talk about. But from banking on it, that still means there's a 90 to 95% chance we get 0. And if people aren't telling you that the chance of 0 is still there, they're lying to you. The time that we get more excited, at least me as a meteorologist, that something actually could happen, is when the chance of snow is higher than the chance of no snow. That means we need to see probabilities of accumulating snow above 51%. Okay? that means there's a higher chance of snow versus no snow. Right now, we are nowhere near that. So while the pattern is somewhat favorable, it's really more about the cold than the moisture. And again, it's Saturday. Today is Saturday the 17th. We're talking still a week from now, 6 days from now, maybe 5 days depending on how things unfold, but we're talking a whole week from now. So stay tuned. I will post updates even here from Houston, Texas, but I will tell you right now, don't build into the hype. There's no need to get super excited. It's fun to think about snow on Christmas, but it's also something, it'd be better if it was a surprise than a big disappointment where someone built it up knowing darn well it was not going to happen. So I will post updates over the next couple of days. Probably my next update, unless something dramatic happens, I'll probably do something Monday more so than Sunday, just because you can't get caught up in every 6 hours a new model run. You got to wait for multiple runs, multiple things to get done before you start seeing trends. A trend is not one model run. It's 3 or 4 or 5. That's a trend. One model run is just a new model run. So we'll wait and see what happens here. But again, the cold's the bigger story, folks. Get ready. Make sure you have your house winterized, your car winterized, because we're going to see lows in the teens and highs in the 30s regardless of what else happens.